This is just how, whether you're selling real estate or construction design, whatever, a lot of times people, they're just going to buy from who they trust, know, and like. You know, that's really what it is.
100%. Welcome everyone to episode 003 of the Influence RE channel. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm very excited about my guest today, Brendan.
Yes.
Put us together, thought it would be a great, nice product placement. We're gonna need some of that money back, thank you. I had reached out, and I think I just put a post out there. I said, I'm building this channel. I want to interview people that are local, that are in the business leaders, and just talk about what's going on with businesses, and not so much about what you're doing inside the business, but more, what are your experiences on a broader level?
Sure.
And so it was great that he connected the two of us. We first started talking about, tell me something specifically about your business. But then we said, you know what, that's not really going to serve as many people, because we started chatting, we started to feel a little bit of a synergy, and we said, let's talk about just the broader stuff. And so tell me a little bit about your story. How did you start this business? How was your career trajectory? Where did it start? Were you always into this?
Yeah. My start was very organic. It wasn't, I have a lot of friends who went to school for design, and that's been since they were young. They were like, that's what I want to do. And for me, I was at a Christmas party and I got recruited by the owner of a company, and I felt like I had absolutely no idea what anything to do with construction or design or.
So how old are you at this point?
I was 21 at the time. So, but it was intriguing, and so I decided to take a jump into it, and it was just having to learn a completely new industry. I came from more of like the fashion industry, but still administrative, still dealing with people, still a lot of the same, which was what kind of blew my mind was, and we kind of talked about this, is just how, whether you're selling real estate or construction design, whatever, a lot of times people, they're just going to buy from who they trust, know, and like. That's really what it is.
100%.
So do you feel like comfortable putting your money and your, hopes, expectations into this person's hand? Do you like them? That's a giant thing when you're talking to someone, is, do you like them? Is that someone that like you'd be comfortable like meeting your family, your kids, whatever? Can you see them, in that mental Rolodex of people that you would call when you need it? So I was interested in that aspect of it, just dealing with people in general. And then I kind of got thrown into the deep end of the pool because I actually started in insurance restoration, which,
Really?
Yeah, they use really specific estimating software that for me kind of helped me once I got into the design part, because I understood the construction part, knowing how to write a list of the scope of work, pricing those things out so that when I work with someone, it's not just how do I create a beautiful aesthetic, but also financially, how do we keep this with those goals as well. So one thing led to another. I ended up staying with that company for almost 10 years. And then when my husband and I got pregnant in 2018, I just started to feel that desire to kind of step outside of working for someone and kind of taking the reins and being able to decide, like, what do I want to put out there? What are my values? What are my goals? What kind of clients do I want to work with? That sort of thing. And then here we are.
That's a great background, because it's certainly a very important component of your business now, is being able to price things out, come from an evaluation background.
Right.
Which is really similar to my background, because, and I'll always get into arm wrestling, not physically arm wrestling, but these types of arm wrestling conversations with customers, potential customers, especially when we're ready to sell their house, is I come from an appraisal background.
Right.
And so when the market did what it did 10 years ago or 12 years ago now, almost, there was a need for appraisals of properties, because unfortunately people were losing their homes.
Right.
And so they needed people that were very astute and very good about finding out the value of a property. And so fast forward, I've probably completed thousands and thousands of reports on that. And so, of course, now as a real estate professional, if I'm going to try to represent your house and sell, I can tell you how to come up to that market value, because I can just...
And that's such an added value.
Such a specific talent.
Yes, for sure.
Certainly there are things that are a little bit more romantic or speculative, because, oh, this house is just so beautiful. It sits up on a hill, and there's value, intrinsic value,
for
and something
sure,
like that.
For sure.
But that's great to hear that you had that type of background.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and we kind of talked about this too, like not all industries have each individual created equal. Just because you have two designers doesn't mean that they're going to be anywhere near the same kind of, end result, and the same with real estate and, anything else. And so again, it comes back to, what's my worldview? What's your worldview? How close are they? Because there's just going to be stuff that happens. Like, they're just, we try to set these perfect scenarios, and unfortunately, it's kind of like if you've ever been to a wedding. Have you ever been to a wedding where nothing went wrong? Like, of course not. There's just too many variables where it's outside of your, it's not you personally doing it. You have to lean on a mortgage broker. You have to lean on, home inspector, all these different people. Same for me. I have to deal with, contractors and the installer and all that. So how do you deal with those expectations, and even setting an expectation that, hey, your expectations aren't all going to get met, and how are you okay with that? We're gonna try to exceed them, but at the end of the day, things happen. You have a date that you're supposed to get set for closing, and something happens with the mortgage company, and then it gets delayed a day, and maybe you were supposed to move out, and all these different variables are kind of preset on that. So,
well, one of the ways we handle it, and it's probably similar to you, is we obviously have people that we recommend.
Sure.
Right? Because we've worked with them already.
Right.
We know that this person's not going to drop the ball. That this woman's not going to, screw it up. If that guy, he's going to show up when he says he's going to show up. Why? Because you want the entire transaction, the whole relationship. And back to one of the things you said earlier, is that your business is also, it's not here, I sold you this, and I don't see you again.
Right. Totally.
It's a relationship.
Completely.
It's you're in it for the long haul. Back to your points, you've got to know, like, and trust the person 100%, so that you can get through it.
Yeah.
And so similarly, if something goes wrong, it's going to look bad on you.
Right.
Because you recommended that person.
Exactly.
So you have to have that army of people around you.
For sure.
And what's nice about living in a smaller town is that, you can find them relatively quickly, and you can also find the ones you shouldn't be working with.
It's true.
Relatively quickly.
Yes.
Which is nice, because then you know that if I'm doing business with you, that I know that you've got your circle of professionals.
Right.
That when I come to you, that I'm going to get the entire package, and it's going to be professional from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
And it's the same.
And how how are you prepared for those changes happening? We're supposed to paint the exterior. It's raining for 7 days straight. How do we adjust the schedule to make up for lost time? Like, there's a lot of ways that you can kind of combat that, but I do notice with people that if it's after the transaction has started, it's an excuse. However, if it's before, it's an explanation, and they're able to swallow that. When you tell them after, it's a completely different thing. So, and that's not to say there's a lot of jobs and transactions that go absolutely perfect, but again, it's trying to just make sure what is your expectation. Am I comfortable meeting that? Or if it's up here and it needs to be here because you don't understand, how can we educate you as your providers on whatever it is? And
in a future video, that's something I want us to talk about, really dive into, because there's just so much in that, and almost anyone that's in these service fields can attest to, when do you decide that you can work with this person, and when do you decide that you can't? Yeah. And are you careful, mindful, and strong enough to say, I'm not going to accept this business because I don't think it's going to work well.
Right. Exactly.
So that's really important. I think, especially when times are tougher, depending on what point of view you come from. If things, if you're just looking at the paycheck, you may make the wrong decision to go into that relationship.
Completely.
But just to wrap up today, I mean, it's relatively new in your business, Splendid Home Design. How much longer? I mean, not how much longer, but what do you have in store for this next coming year?
Well, we actually are excited to say that as of, I think it was Thursday last week, we're officially qualified as a GC. So, you know, we've been pretty much staying in a certain wheelhouse, and there's been limitations with that. That, you know, overall we want to be able to really tackle whatever, you know, projects that you have coming up. And you know, I think taking it down to the last detail up until, you know, the very end, and really being a turnkey kind of service for our clients, and making them feel like they're also a part of that process. You know, that's something that I'm very, very big on. Is I don't want to just take your home and turn it into something that's going to look pretty in a picture, but I want you to feel the areas in that where you also had a say, and you also, you know, because ultimately I leave and you stay. So I want to make sure that, you know, our clients can really feel their involvement with the design process, and not just they passed it off and got it back and this is what they have and it's pretty, but does it work with my lifestyle and all that. So I think really being able to just capture more of that big picture is really what we're hoping to accomplish. And we're so excited. We've been so blessed to have just the most awesome people to work with.
Great.
And you know, awesome people know more awesome people. So that's the best kind of referral, is when you have an amazing customer who's friends with another amazing person, and it just continues to go on. So servicing those people, and just coming up with friendship in the most bizarre places where it's a person I would have never otherwise met, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, you know? So it's very cool, networking and getting more involved locally and all that. So we're excited. But
Well, thank you so much for doing this with me.
Yes, thank
I
you
know we're
for-
excited about we're doing some more.
yes, tune in.
Yeah,
we have like
definitely tune in.
so many things we want to talk
We
about.
were constantly
and-
we're setting up
Yes.
the cameras, and we're kind of just kind of
Yes.
spitting all this stuff
I
out.
know.
We
We're
can do
like,
this, we
stop
can do this, we can do
talking.
this.
We have to talk about it on camera. But yeah.
But it's going to be I think it's going to be a great outlet to share a lot inside this community, which we both love.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm not going anywhere.
Same, and also technically giving tips and different things that before you go into these different scenarios, you know, if we can add value that way too, that's really what we hope to do.
Absolutely,
So,
we're going to get very specific in certain videos about you know,
Yes.
what to do, what not to do, what kind of questions to ask.
Yes.
In both of our businesses, just to add value and hopefully answer a lot of questions that
Yeah.
most people have.
yes.
Right, because there's a lot of steps
And
in
it's,
everything you do.
It is, and there's a lot of the same questions being asked that could be replaced with even better questions. So going into it with eyes wide open, and you know why you should be asking those questions.
Whether you're spending 10,000 or 100,000,
Yes.
300,000,
Yes.
400,000.
Yep.
It's a very similar experience, similar questions, right? Things you have to be prepared
Yes.
for.
For sure. Completely.
Well, thanks everyone. We will
Thank
see you
you.
next time. Thank you.
Bye.